Oh, hello class. Algebra 2 students. Mr. Thomas here. You caught me in the middle of a puzzle. I love working with puzzles. And you know what? Speaking of puzzles, that reminds me of today's lesson, solving systems with matrices. You know, this week you've solved systems of matrices 0 times. But today, you're going to do it 1 time and hopefully you'll be an expert. We know how to solve systems with tables, with graphing, with substitution, and elimination, but today is the most fun you will have solving systems. It's like doing a puzzle of Timon, Pumbaa, and Simba. So I'm going to hold on to this because we're going to need this here in a little bit. So, 2 goals today. We're going to represent linear equations using a matrix. Secondly, we're going to solve a system using a matrix. So, what is a matrix? A matrix is a fantastic movie from my childhood, Keanu Reeves. It was top-notch 3D effects, all right? I'm not going to do any of the special moves that's done in the movies because I may throw on my back, but that is not the matrix we're talking about with algebra, all right? This is awesome movie matrix, awesome algebra matrix, okay? So a matrix is just a rectangular representation of equations without variables. So we're removing the letters and just leaving the numbers. So this is what a matrix looks like with 3 different linear equations. So right here it says, what is element A23? Well, each of these spots is represented by a number. The first number in A23, the 2 represents the row. So row 1, row 2, row 3. So row 2, and then the 3 in A23 represents the 3rd column. 1, 2, 3. So we can say A23 is 8. You need to be familiar with where these numbers from the linear equations are placed. So how do we go from an equation to a matrix? Here's how we would do this. We have x plus 3y equals 7. 3x plus y equals negative 8. You want to make sure your equation is in this form. X plus y equals a number. All right, so you can have coefficients on the left side of the equal sign, constants or just the numbers on the right side. Then I just take the coefficients. I just take the numbers. So right here, remember this is an invisible 1, so I put a 1 right there. Then I put a 3 in the second spot. Notice my little matrix box, I have a straight line vertical that separates the coefficients from the constant. This is sort of like our equal sign. And so I put my 7 on the right side of the equal line. Then take my 3, put it there. My y, remember our invisible 1, our 1 right there, and our negative 8 goes there. Pretty simple so far. So let's practice this real quick. I've got 2 equations. I got 2x plus y equals 9, x minus 6y equals negative 1. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw my matrix box. I'm going to draw these little brackets, and I'm going to draw my little line. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to make it red. So I've got a 2, invisible 1, and a 9. Just like that. New Christmas colors, red and green. All right, got an invisible 1 right there. I have a negative 6. Remember, the symbol goes with it. So I've got a negative 6, and then I've got a negative 1. That's how you do that one. On this one, they're throwing another line at us. So I'm going to draw my matrix box, draw my vertical line, and let's start with red. I've got a 1, a negative 3. I've got a z now. I've got a z, but that's okay. I know what I'm doing. There's an invisible 1 in front of that, and then a 6. So notice I'm going x, y, z. All right. X, y, z. That's supposed to be a z. Oh, that's embarrassing. If I was Zorro, I'd be the worst Zorro ever. Okay. So on this one, we have x and z. So let's just do the x. Invisible 1 right there. There's no y. If you have nothing or none of something that's also called a 0. So I'm just going to put 0, and then my z is 3, and my number over here is 12. Now in this one, they really try to throw us off, all right? We need to get this in 5x plus y equals something. So I would just add 5x to each side. You can rewrite this. All right, I know that's kind of sloppy, but that 5 would cancel, and I would have 5x, that's my 5, plus y, invisible 1, there's no z, so that's 0, and 1. And that is how you take it from equations to matrix. All right, so what about going from a matrix back to an equation? It's the same thing. Right here, I've got two components, so x and y, and that's going to be my equal. So this is 5x plus 2y equals 7, and then 0x plus 1y equals 9. That can simplify to y equals 9. All right, so those are the terms and the way that you kind of manipulate the equations to get the matrix. But now the question is, how do I actually solve it? And there are lots of different things that you could do to manipulate the numbers. I'm going to show you an example on the whiteboard shortly. But the thing that I want you to keep in mind is this little box right here. This is sort of like my picture of Timon, Pumbaa, and Simba. When I'm confused about my puzzle, about where pieces go, I look at this to know if I'm on the right track. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at this little box, the 1, 0, 1, 0, and then A and B. That's going to be your picture that you're aiming for. And once you get a 1, a 0, a 1, a 0 in those 4 boxes, the A and B, that is your solution. The A represents the x value, and the y represents, or the B represents the y value. So let's do an example. I promise you it's going to be a little difficult, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So here we go. So in our example, we have x plus 4y equals -1. 2x plus 5y equals 4. First thing I like to do is I like to draw the picture I'm aiming for. So I'm aiming for 1, 0, 1, 0. And then there's going to be something in there. That's going to be my answer. I'm going to have my x and my y. Then after that, I need to draw my matrix. So I'm going to do my little matrix box. Draw my line. I've got a 1, remember invisible 1 right there. 1 there. 4 here. -1. And then I've got 2, 5, 4. Simple as that. Then I'm going to look at, I like to start in the top left and then go around counterclockwise. So I look right here. Guess what? It's a 1. So I've already got part of my picture done. I'm actually going to color that a different color so you don't get confused. Let's go with green. So that I'm good on that one. So now what I'm aiming for is I'm aiming to get a 0 right there. Now what you can do to these rows is you can switch rows, you can multiply, you can add some together, and I'm going to walk you through, hopefully slowly enough for you to catch it, what we're going to do. But we need to get a 0 right here. All right, and the best way for me to do this is going to be a couple of steps. The first thing I'm going to want to do is I want to multiply this first row. So I'm going to write my instructions on what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply R1, stands for row 1, by -2. Because what I'm aiming for is I'm aiming to switch this to a 0. So I'm going to multiply row 1 by -2. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And I would recommend maybe getting colored pencils. It's also more fun and more colorful. But -2 times 1 is?
-2.
There we go. -2. Negative 2 times 4 is?
Negative 8.
Thank you, Ms. Collette. And then negative 2 times negative 1 is?
Positive 2.
Positive 2. Very good. And so now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add row 1 to row 2. All right, and what I'm going to do before I add, I'm going to go ahead and put a little plus sign so I know I'm adding. I'm going to draw another little matrix box. And the way that I know I'm changing a row is the last row that I mentioned in my instructions. That's the one that's getting changed. So row 2 is going to change. Row 1 is staying the same on the black part that I have. So my 1, my 4, and my negative 1, those don't change. But the second row is about to change based on my multiplication. So negative 2 plus 2 equals 0. Negative 8 plus 5 equals negative 3. 2 plus 4 equals 6. Now, I look, and I still should have a 1 right there, which I do. And now I have a 0. So I can circle that. Actually, you know what would be more fun than a circle? How about a little smiley face? You may not be able to see it on the camera, but the 0 is smiling. All right, so now, I'm just going to tell you on this first step, once you get a 1 right here, you're always going to multiply and then add, okay? So you're multiplying by the opposite, so a negative, if this is positive, you're going to multiply by a negative and then add. Once you get to this point, here's how this is going to work. You're going to multiply by the reciprocal, okay? Reciprocal. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, you're going to multiply, let me get this. You're going to multiply by the reciprocal, so negative 3 is sort of like if you wrote negative 3 over 1. So the reciprocal is just flipping it. So instead of negative 3 over 1, it's going to be negative 1 over 3. All right? Multiply, I'm going to multiply row 2. Now the last row that I mentioned in these instructions is row 2, because that's the only row I mentioned. And so when I come over here, negative 1/3 times 0 is?
0.
0. Negative 1/3 times negative 3 is?
1.
Positive 1. And negative 1/3 times 6 is?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. All right, so now I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to draw another matrix. There's lots of drawing in matrices, all right? But that's okay. That's where it's fun, okay? Because you get to see it all coming together like a little puzzle. So I didn't mention row 1, so that's going to stay the same again. 1, 4, negative 1. I'm going to get a 0, a 1, and a negative 2 here. Now notice, I've got a 1, a 0, and a 1. It's starting to look like my picture. Timon, Pumbaa, Simba coming together. All right, we have basically just one more to go. So we're trying to get a smiley face here. And I will tell you, once you get to this point, you're going to zero out this number the same way you did this. You're going to multiply. So on this one, I multiplied row 1 and then added. This time I'm going to multiply row 2. So I'm going to multiply row 2 by negative 4. By negative 4. Then I'm going to add row 2 to row 1. So first, let me multiply negative 4 over here. So negative 4 times 0 is?
0.
Negative 4 times 1 is?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 2 is?
Positive 8.
Positive 8. Very good. And now I'm going to add those together. Now remember, the row that's mentioned last is the only one that changes. So I'm going to draw my little box again. Row 2 is going to stay the same. So I'm going to have 0, 1, negative 2. But when I go up here, I'm going to add. So 0 plus 1 is
1.
1. Negative 4 plus 4 is
0. Nailed
just put them
it.
together. This can be our answer. 8 plus negative 1 is
7.
7. Very good. And so once we get the picture done, what's remaining in this box, the A and the B, that is our solution. And so we would say our solution to this matrix is 7 and 2. Negative 2. See, without Miss Collette, I'd be making negatives, positives, and positive negatives. So even the best of us can make mistakes. Just remember that. The best men are men at best. All right. That is Matrices. I love doing this. I hope you enjoy it. Remember, you can reach out to either of us if you need help. Adios. I will see you in class or on video another day.
Bye.